My name is Julie Pila. I've been at Emmanuel for about 2.5 years now. And the first time I'll say came to Emmanuel was online during COVID. I was going through a major time. I mean, it was COVID. I guess we'll get into that story in a little bit. But I was sitting in my living room one day and just, what am I doing with my life? And I just went online and watched church, and I was searching all the different churches around Salisbury, and it was Easter Sunday is the first Sunday that I attended Emmanuel, heard Pastor Mark preach, and I was just like, this is where I need to be. The building was closed down at that time, so it was the first Sunday that you guys opened the building. I was here, and I've been here ever since then because it was so already at home, which I feel is really weird when I had never been here and I had only been online. I did come to the drive-up communion that you guys had, and I prayed with Pete that day. It was really awesome, and I remember telling him that I felt that I was letting my daughter down, that I hadn't brought her up in the faith as I was brought up in, and he just told me it was never too late, and that is so very true because where she's come now, it's amazing. Like I said, it's home. From the very first day, it was home. I got connected into serving in E-Kids, I got into small group, and I've been in several different small groups now, but they've all been sisters, they've all been family. It's just a comfort that is strange to say that strangers are a comfort, but they so quickly become your family. I grew up in a Christian family. It was church in the morning on Sunday, church in the evening on Sunday. Wednesday we were at church, church camp, and not only church, summer kids camp, but also my grandmother and my parents owned cabins on the campground, so we were kind of at church camp all summer long. So I definitely grew up around Jesus, around the faith. I've been a believer kind of since I can ever remember, but it was at kids camp that I became saved. I was 11 years old. I remember being in the youth tabernacle. It was the day that Jesus really spoke to me, and ever since then I was a follower. But as, the world tells us, when you get into your teen years, you start trying to find your way in life. And a lot of times that's not in the church, it's in school and career and those kind of things. And I definitely put my career over my faith when I was young. Well, I got into retail, and in that I was really going to college and just working in retail part-time, but the turnover is so high that I was just moving up the ladder like so quick, and I became the store manager, only after a couple years, and I ended up working at New York & Company in the mall, and it became my existence. I was there all the time. I was putting my heart and soul into it. I'm a Harry Potter fan, so any of you Harry Potter fans out there, I would always say that the store was my Horcrux, that I literally gave a piece of my soul to that career and to that building. And when COVID happened and it all closed down, I literally lost who I was. I put so much of my identity in things that didn't matter, that I was totally lost. And like I said, I sat on that couch that day and just feeling like, what have I done? What have I done with my life? Like, I have strayed so far. And I just remember sitting there and Jesus telling me, like, get online. Like, today is the day that there's, you don't have to wait another day. Like, come back in this moment. And since that moment, I've fully given my life back to Jesus. I built up this thing, and what I thought I had built up, I was quote unquote important there. I had worked at the same place for 20 years, so it wasn't just like my store, it was like I was known even in our corporate office, and I traveled all around the country to different stores and built teams in these places. So there was such a level of pride and self-importance that I had that was immediately just like gone. When you're a general manager like that, you have, even on your days off, there's people calling you, there's people always looking to you, there's, they become family too. So, it was a lot of, college-age kids that were like really looking for advice from me and that kind of thing. So I just thought I was important. You know what I mean? And so when that's just literally gone, like in an instant, and even weirder than just losing your job in that COVID environment when you couldn't even go out of your house, and it's, like only gonna be 14 days, and then it is more and more and more. It was really, I was just at a really low point where I was just like, I just literally don't know what I've done with my life. And I started really just looking back and searching back and, seeing all these moments where like decisions I could have made, I made the wrong choice, and it seemed like the right choice. And at the time it seemed like, climbing the corporate ladder and, all the things that the world is like, strive for money and strive for success. And that is really what I did at that time. And like we're saying, when that's gone, it's devastating. It's devastating. Like I said, there was the day I was sitting on my couch and I literally felt the Spirit move me to like open my computer and sign online. And, like I said, Emmanuel wasn't the first church that I looked at. I looked at several churches in the area in those first few days. And like I said, it was a move of the Spirit that was literally telling me, like, I'm telling myself, like, what have I done? I've ruined my life. Like, my life is over. Like, that kind of thing. Like, how do I come back from this? And it really was just him saying, like, your life isn't over, your life is beginning. Like the life that you were supposed to have had this whole time, that you strayed off in this this wrong path, like it's coming back around. And it was just that decision to open that computer, and then it just kind of escalated from there. Like when Pastor Mark spoke, like I said before, it was speaking to me so clearly that I was like, I didn't even watch any of the other churches after that. I just kept coming, signing on to Emmanuel. And from that day, I kind of felt like this is where I needed to be. So everything that you guys were doing, I was like, I'm gonna go to that, I'm gonna go to that. And then to make the first step to come to church is always so hard, but I think that I was able to watch online first. It made me already feel part of you guys, and that I already kind of knew some of you guys, even though I totally didn't. But definitely coming in my car was another huge step, but it was definitely a lead from the Spirit that like, this is what you need to do. And it was definitely obedience on my part, because if I wouldn't have gotten the car that day, if I wouldn't have drove up here to people that I totally didn't know and cried and told Pete that I had let my daughter down, it was those things that I needed to say out loud, that I needed to say to a stranger. I needed to say to someone that was able to speak life back to me, that kept me like continuing to push and push and push. And from the first day you guys opened the building, I was like, I'm going to be there, and just that obedience of the little steps, the little by little, that, sometimes the full plunge in is also the little by little steps that you take to really make it happen. And the first Discover Emmanuel that you guys had, I came to that. I sat through it, I filled out my card, I circled some things on the card. I didn't circle kids on that card. And when I was walking back to hand it in to Josh, something was like, why didn't you circle kids? You used to be a Girl Scout troop leader. Literally, I heard that in my head, and I was like, oh yeah, I do like kids. Why didn't I circle that? And so I circled kids, handed it to Josh, and the next day, Kelly called me and asked me if I wanted to serve, and I was like, I absolutely want to. And then that's where my journey with kids began. I was unemployed, and so I had nothing to do, and I was telling my good friend Trina that even though I was back in church and I felt like I was really making steps and that I was feeling so much better about the life that was ahead, even though the store ends up closing, going bankrupt, and I know that I'm not going to be going back to that life. I was like, I still am here and I don't really know what to do with myself. And she said, well, why don't you ask Kelly if you can help her during the week? And I was like, this woman doesn't even know me. I don't, I feel weird just being like, hey, do you want my help? And she was like, just do it anyway. And so for a couple days I mulled on that, and I was like, I feel so awkward, just going up to this lady and being like, I just started serving with you. You really don't even know me, but I want to come during the week and help you, and but I did it. And at first she said, oh, no, it's fine. I don't want to put you out, that kind of thing. And I was like, no, I really want to help. So if you really need some help, then I do really want to help you. And that's when she was like, okay, sure. Can you come in on Wednesday and start helping me out? And I was like, absolutely. You are doing me a huge favor by giving me some kind of purpose, because I'm just sitting home, really. I need something to do. So then I started coming in through the week and helping her and doing small baskets with her and just building such a relationship with her that she is really a heavenly godsend to me. Definitely our relationship is from the Lord. I truly believe every bit that He has called Kelly into my life. Like I said, I had just started serving in kids, so I didn't know Kelly barely at all. I had my little orientation with kids, and I served one time, and then the second time that I was going to serve, she was already like, someone called out, do you think you can do the class by yourself? And I was like, sure. And so, like I said, I was helping her out, and I found out during our first beginning talks that she is from the same town that I grew up in. So it's we kind of linked there, and then it was little by little, just little things in our past lives were similar. So that definitely helped us have a bond and grow in our relationship there. But just having that person that during that time that I was feeling so lost, she just was so welcoming and so just friendly, and that motherly, sisterly relationship that you really need when you are that far just confused. I guess I'll say confused. And she just had such confidence in me, and it's this person doesn't know me, but they have so much confidence in me and the walk that I took in life and am trying to turn around and take. So like I said, her influence at that beginning is priceless to me. Going back a little bit, I kind of mentioned on some of it. So the store closed down 14 days. We were going to be going back. During that time, our CEO left, which is a big uh-oh, that doesn't sound good. So in those months, we ended up finding out that we were going to file bankruptcy. And we went back. We kind of finished it out. And then I was on unemployment. I ended up starting here at the church up at the front desk, which was very short-lived because it took them a really long time to get back to me. So by the time I was working up at the front desk, I got an offer to go to another retailer in the mall. So I ended up going back because honestly, money, was a huge difference. So, I went back to my career at the mall. And when I went back, I promised myself I'm still going to church every single week. That was my excuse for years. I work in retail. I have to work on the weekend. I just can't make it to church. But it was an excuse. It was definitely an excuse. I could have gotten here if I wanted to. And I knew that. So I was I'm taking the step to go back in my career, but I can't go back into my own old ways. So I promised I was gonna get to church. I was gonna, keep with my small group. I was not gonna let any of that change. So I kept those promises. I never missed church. I was serving in E-Kids every week. And so, I left the front desk back at my job. And that's when Kelly was like, I feel that you need to take over in E-Kids. And I was like, this is literally like a prayer come true. It's like totally unbelievable, but also like, I don't want to be here without you. Like what? I don't even know what that looks like, you know? So that whole thing happened and she moved, you know, well, before I interviewed for the job, and, you know, when Pastor Ted told me the salary that I was going to make, it was 60% less than the salary that, you know, I had at my new job and that I was accustomed to. And it was tough. Let me tell you, it was tough. And I went back down to kids and I told Kelly, I was like, I want this so bad, but I just don't, taking a 60% pay cut is like almost insanity. Like, it's almost insanity. So I had a few days, you know, to think about it before I had to get back to Pastor Ted. And Sunday came around and the first song that they sang, Kate was singing, was Available. And normally I'm just like, yes, Jesus, I'm available. Use me in any way that you can use me. And in that moment, I couldn't sing the words because I would be lying, because I was thinking like I couldn't take that pay cut. And so I tried to sing and I literally like fell down on the pew and was just crying. And Kelsey never sits with me, and she sat with me that day and she just started praying over me. And it was my drop everything and follow Jesus moment, because in that moment I was like, I'm praying for this. It's being given to me and I might say no. You know, why am I even doing this if I don't really want to follow Jesus and I wouldn't do anything to follow him? And so, yeah, I took a 60% pay cut to be the director of E-Kids, and I will say I just love it. I just love it so much, you know. And is it tough still? Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. It's still tough to take that pay cut. But he's providing for me. He's making it happen. So, you know, yeah, that was definitely you know, make this decision. Why are you even doing this if you're not gonna, you know, take the plunge when it's being when he's calling you? Luckily, the director before me was amazing, and so she taught me well, and I was able to walk into a program that is just top-notch, so that definitely helps. I actually had a parent when we came back from camp, and I was in the hall and she was like, did you used to work in the mall? And I was like, I did. I used to work at New York and Company. She's like, I thought that you looked familiar. She was like, you are so joyful here. Like, I can just tell that this is where you need to be. Like, you didn't need to be in the mall. You needed to be here. So it's those validation points that you're like, yes, thank you. Thank you for saying that. But yeah, E-Kids is amazing. It is full of energy. The kids teach me just as much as I'm teaching them, you know. It's just, like you're saying, it's the next generation. It's actually the now generation. You know, they are as much the church as anyone else is, and that's what we're really trying to tell them, to let them know that, you know, you are the church, that you are disciples for Jesus, that following Jesus is your job now, you know, and that's what we really just instill in them, to follow in Jesus' example, to love people, to serve people, and that we are called to disciple. So, you know, telling their friends, acting in a way that their friends see them and are like, wow, like, I want to be like so-and-so. They're always so nice. They're always so kind, you know? So, yeah, just building up these kids, because we want them to stay in the faith. I don't want them to stray away like I did. I know the world is a tough place, and even tougher for sure than when it happened to me. So letting them know this is a place that we love them, we care for them, they are wanted here. You know, they have a place here, they will always have a place here. And when they do, because statistics say that a huge portion of our kids are going to walk away from the church, but when they do, when they have that moment, that they can look back and they'll come back, because this is a place that they felt loved. the people here were different. There was something here, and so when they're in those dark, low moments like I was, where they just don't know where else to reach out to, that they'll know that Jesus is who you reach out to, and they were able to see him, They may have not seen him with their physical eyes, but they do see him. They see him through us, so that's just so important to me, is to just, let these kids know that Jesus loves them, that he's there for them, and that he's always going to be with them. I would say Romans, I think it's 12:2. It is, don't conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his perfect and pleasing will. And I think that was so important for me, just repeating over and over when I was trying to break an old world and renew my mind into what was really important. And that's still a verse that I think every day we have to renew our minds. This journey is a journey. It's an everyday journey. It's every day you wake up and you have to set your eyes and set your focus on Jesus. And that verse just reminds me of that, to do that each day. And also, for whatever reason, he always brings Joshua up to me. Like, whenever, things like this, where I'm like, come tell your testimony. And I'm like, oh no, do I have to? Do I have to do that? It's always be courageous and strong. The Lord is with you. And I just know the importance of telling your testimony. We are all called, like I said, to disciple. And a lot of people that I talk to, they'll say, like, I want to talk about Jesus. I just don't know how to bring him up. I don't know how, to disciple people. I don't know what to say. And this is how you disciple people. You tell your story. And so, but when you reached out and were like, do you want to tell your story? Of course I had to, like, oh no, do I have to do that? But then it's like, yes, I have to do that. And I want to do that. So yeah, he always brings up Joshua to me, and just to know that, there's going to be people around you, like the spies who go in to the promised land and they see scary things. And then there's the ones that are like, no, we can do this. And I want to be one of those who is like, no, we can do this. We can follow the Lord. We can do what he says, and we'll make it to the promised land. Everyone has things that they're like, I do not want anyone to know that happened. But those are the things that other people are dealing with. Other people need to hear that they're not alone in things. And that's why our stories are so important, because we just, that's how we help each other. That's how we understand each other. That's how we're able to communicate Jesus, through the love, that it's like, I went through this, but he got me through it. This happened, but he got me through it. He was always there with me. It was tough, but I felt his presence through the whole thing. And that's what people need to hear, because sometimes, especially people who maybe don't know the Lord yet, like, they don't know that he's with them. They don't have the just comprehension that, some of the things that they're feeling are the Lord, like, stirring in them, and to grab onto that, and to go with it, even when it's scary, even when you don't want to tell your story. It's so, so important. And then even to, believers, it's scary for us to tell our stories too. And, but to know that if you're being asked, the Lord is, having it come up for a reason. So you need to obey and get it out there. And once you start talking, and once you tell, even if it's one person, you feel better, and you've done something for yourself and for, the person who needed to hear your story. How would I describe my story? I don't know. The word hope just keeps coming up for some reason. I think I've always had a hope in Jesus. I just, like I said, I took the long way around. Seems like a theme in the Bible, that people take the long way around. But even when I wasn't focused on him, I still had that hope. I still knew him. I still knew that things would be good. And then, like I brought up my daughter earlier, I was at first a little hopeless that I had messed up, that I hadn't taught her at a young age to know Jesus, and so would she be able to? But we were at camp last week, and there's a song that we sang at camp, and part of the lines say, I can't remember what I did before you. And she was in the car and we were singing that song, and she was like, that line is so true, because I can't even remember my life before I knew Jesus. You know, so something that I was so worried about, you know, he's even been able to correct that and, you know, bring the good out of that. And that was my one big regret. It was almost like I don't really care as much about what's happening with me, as that I kind of thought that I was letting her down. But to see her serving, to see her having godly friends and godly mentors and just growing in her faith and, you know, saying things like that, it's what a mama wants to hear when she thinks that, when she thinks she messed up. So it's just hope. And, you know, I'm, you know, going through some tough things right now, but I know he's going to bring me through them. Like I said, financially, it's tough. It's tough for all of us, you know? So, you know, I just have to hold on to the fact that I know he wants me here. And so he's going to provide. So there's always just that hope in Jesus that good is going to come. The good is going to come. Definitely that first day that I opened my laptop, I was doing it for me. I 100% was doing it for me, that I had lost myself. I needed to get back. But little by little, it became so much about her. She went to public school, you know, and with the pandemic, we ended up putting her into Salisbury Christian, even though I lost 60% of my income. You know, things that you wouldn't think were possible, because one of my first prayers for her when she was in public school and it was COVID and, you know, she's an only child and sitting home alone, I was praying that she would find, you know, friends that knew Jesus, because it's hard to hear about Jesus from your mom when your mom hasn't told you about Jesus, you know? So I prayed for those friends. I prayed for those mentors. I prayed for people that, you know, would be able to get that message to a teenager that wasn't their parent. And he just came through. He just came through in such a big way. And like she said, now she doesn't even remember a time before she knew Jesus. And that's just so, prayers answered, for sure. Prayers answered to the max, because when I was praying them, I really wasn't sure if it would come to pass. And, you know, it surely has. It surely has, yeah. So I am Julie, and this is my story.